Most of us believe our homes are making us wealthy. We watch the Zillow estimate climb. We hear stories of neighbors selling for double what they paid, and we feel that warm glow of building equity. I believed this too, until I discovered something that changed everything about how I think about real estate wealth. What if I told you that your house isn't actually appreciating the way you think it is? In fact, the biggest myth in personal finance might be happening right in your driveway. Here's where it gets interesting. When we buy a house, we think we're buying one asset, but we're actually buying two completely different things that behave in opposite ways. And understanding this distinction is what separates people who build real wealth through real estate from those who just think they are. Let me show you what I mean. Most of us have heard stories like this Reddit post from last month, where a homeowner in Denver celebrated their house going from $300,000 to $500,000 in 8 years. The comments were full of congratulations and envy. But here's what that homeowner, and most of us, don't realize about what really happened. They didn't buy one appreciating asset, and the difference between these two things will either make you wealthy or keep you trapped in financial mediocrity. Let's start with the part everyone gets wrong. The house itself, the actual structure, begins depreciating the moment it's built. This isn't my opinion. This is physics, economics, and accounting all agreeing on something. The roof ages, the foundation settles, the electrical systems become outdated, the HVAC system wears down, the appliances need replacing. Think about any other major purchase you've made: your car, your computer, your phone. They all lose value over time without constant maintenance and eventual replacement. Your house follows the same principle, just more slowly. This is why the IRS allows depreciation on rental properties. Accountants understand that buildings wear out. Insurance companies price this into their policies. But somehow, we homeowners have convinced ourselves that our aging structure is magically becoming more valuable each year. Now here's where it gets fascinating. The land underneath your house? That's a completely different story. Land is finite. As populations grow, as cities expand, as certain areas become more desirable, that specific piece of earth becomes more valuable. This is where real appreciation happens. Here's a perfect example that illustrates this principle. In Manhattan Beach, California, there was a news story about a 1950s bungalow that sold for $2.3 million. The buyers immediately tore it down. They weren't paying $2.3 million for outdated plumbing and a cramped kitchen. They were paying for the land, the location, the scarcity of beachfront property. The same thing happens in cities across America, just at different price points. In Austin, Texas, tiny houses on small lots routinely sell for over $500,000, not because the structures are architectural marvels, but because the land they occupy has become incredibly valuable as the city has grown. This brings us to inflation's sneaky role in our confusion. When someone tells you their house doubled in value over 20 years, they're usually not accounting for the fact that everything costs more in nominal terms due to inflation. Let's do the math together. Say you bought a house for $200,000 in 2004 and sold it for $400,000 in 2024. That sounds like you doubled your money, right? But $200,000 in 2004 equals about $320,000 in today's purchasing power. So your real gain wasn't $200,000, it was closer to $80,000. And most of that $80,000 probably came from land appreciation, not the structure becoming more valuable. Here's where this gets really interesting for building wealth. Understanding this distinction completely changes how smart investors approach real estate. They're not betting on houses becoming more valuable. They're betting on land becoming more scarce and desirable. This explains why location matters so much more than the house itself. Take two identical houses built in 1995. Same size, same materials, same construction quality. One sits in downtown Nashville, the other in a small town that's been losing population. The Nashville house might be worth 4 times what the rural house is worth today, not because one house aged better, but because the land values diverged dramatically. The Nashville land became more valuable as the music industry grew. Tech companies moved in, and more people wanted to live there. The rural land became less valuable as economic opportunities disappeared. Same house, completely different outcomes, all based on what happened to the dirt underneath. Now you might be thinking, what does this mean for me? Whether you own, rent, or are thinking about buying, this knowledge puts you ahead of most people, including many real estate professionals. If you're a homeowner, think about your mortgage payments differently. Part of what you're paying for maintains a depreciating asset that needs constant care. Part goes toward an appreciating asset, the land, that you're hoping becomes more desirable over time. Budget for maintenance and improvements not as optional expenses, but as necessary investments to prevent your structure from depreciating faster than your land appreciates. If you're thinking about buying, this changes everything about where you should focus. A modest house on expensive land is often a better investment than an expensive house on cheap land. You can always renovate or rebuild a structure, but you can't change the location. Look for areas where land is likely to become more valuable, near developing job centers, transportation improvements, or growing communities. And if you're renting, don't let anyone shame you with the old "you're throwing money away" argument. You're paying for housing without taking on the risks of structure depreciation or betting on land appreciation. Sometimes that's the smartest financial choice, especially if you're not sure about staying in one location long-term. Here's what separates people who build real wealth through real estate from those who just break even. The wealthy understand they're really investing in land, not houses. They look for areas where land will become more scarce and desirable before everyone else figures it out. This also explains why some real estate markets crash while others soar. When a local economy struggles, land becomes less desirable and property values fall regardless of how nice the houses are. When new major employers arrive or infrastructure improves, land values rise and even modest houses become expensive. Understanding this truth puts you in a completely different league from most homeowners and even many real estate agents who still think in terms of simple house appreciation. You now know that successful real estate wealth building is really about predicting where land will become more valuable and positioning yourself accordingly. The next time you hear someone say, "Real estate always goes up," you'll know they're only half right. The structure doesn't go up without significant investment. But the land underneath? That's where fortunes are made by those smart enough to understand the difference. This isn't just real estate knowledge. This is wealth-building intelligence that most people never learn. You're now part of the small percentage who understand what's really happening when property values change. Use this knowledge wisely, and it can transform how you build wealth through real estate, where millionaires are made.